You're listening to the Drinks in a Movie podcast, hosted by Rudy Ruiz. Spoiler alert.
Drinks in a Movie podcast. I am back with my friend Michael Ting. Welcome back.
Thank you again for having me. Seriously.
And,
happy to be here.
Yeah. We had recently talked about Tim Burton's 1989 Batman film. Today we are talking about The Batman from 2022, directed by Matt Reeves, starring Robert Pattinson as the Caped Crusader. And for this one, I just opened this so it doesn't have a lot of airtime, but I am going to drink Heaven's Door bourbon. I've never had this before. I only got it because I went to Certified Liquor in Monrovia and I wanted a Weller foolproof store pick, but it was bundled with this one and it was a good price. So I was like, all right, let's check it out. So this is Heaven's Door. It's a single barrel select cask strength straight bourbon whiskey from Certified Liquor in Monrovia or Duarte. I don't know. 125.6 proof. Let's see. Mash bill is 77% corn, 15% rye, 8% barley, distilled in Tennessee with char number 4. I don't know anything about Heaven's Door, and I didn't do any research on it. So, whoops. Let me pull up Distiller and see what I can find about this.
I think I'll give this one a try, too.
Yeah, go for it. You can pour your own right now.
Okay.
So, let me just take a look. Here we go. I'll look at a regular single barrel on Distiller. Oh, no information. Awesome. All right, so I'm just going to read off Distiller. This is about their regular straight Tennessee bourbon. So let's see what we got about this. Heaven's Door is a whiskey brand developed in collaboration with Bob Dylan. All right, that's interesting.
Yeah.
The bottles feature iron gates created by Dylan in his studio, Black Buffalo Ironworks, which were made from found objects from across America, including everything from farm equipment, children's toys, kitchen utensils, and antique firearms to chains, cogs, axes, and wheels. Is for the whiskey. This is a straight bourbon distilled in Tennessee and is aged for almost 7 years in new charred American oak. And yeah, so Tennessee whiskey should be good. You already tried it and had a big reaction because
it's stronger than this one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 125.6 proof is a lot of alcohol.
Okay.
So for someone who doesn't drink ever,
yeah,
what you're doing is like pretty crazy.
Okay.
A lot of people at like 90 proof would be making the face you're making right now.
Okay.
And you're like, this is really advanced stuff.
Got it.
But
I wish I would have known that before
I thought, sorry, that's why I said it before you poured it. I guess I assumed you knew what proof was and referred to, so my bad.
It's all right.
I should have known better, but that refers to the amount of alcohol that's in it. So it's 62.8% alcohol by volume.
Okay.
And then you double that, and that's what the proof is, hence 125.6. So that is a lot. That's like a ton of alcohol. So if you're not used to that, it's probably just burning your esophagus straight to hell's door. All right, just whipping some air into this thing real quick.
Did you try it yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
The other thing with these higher proof ones, it's like you need to get a little more oxidization, if that's a word.
See.
You know, a little more air into it.
Would that have helped? Probably not.
Probably for you, not that much. A teeny, not. It would be negligible.
You got it.
And really, something of this proof, it's like I probably should have poured it like 10 minutes ago to really make a difference. But I like to do it fresh on the mic. But here we go. Yeah, so smells strong, obviously very sharp. Mostly alcohol. Definitely sweeter than the rye. I'm just going to go in for the taste, though, because right now it's hard to get past like the alcohol. So here we go.
That was a lot. No? Okay.
Wow, that's super fruity. Holy shit.
That wasn't my reaction.
Wow, that's very fruity. It takes me a second too, because I'll like roll it up and down my tongue so it coats the whole tongue. And some folks say that the first sip, you want to let it sit for like 8 seconds.
Well, I see.
To really get acclimated. But man, that was super fruit forward. Like mixed berry gummy candies. Yeah, just like mixed red berry candies. Yeah, that's consistent. Wow, total fucking mixed berry. Like I'm trying to think of the exact can, but any kind of mixed berry candy you can think of. Just think like red, purple candies, like just like that, like hard candies. That taste with a lot of that char kind of influence on the back. And in the finish, not very drying, but definitely peppery on the back end. That's actually not bad. I'm pleasantly surprised with this. I didn't know what to expect. I've never had Heaven's Door. It's never really been on my radar. But yeah, okay. I can't wait to share this with some other folks.
Was this the first time you've had both of these, or this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this one was only open because I poured some into an infinity bottle earlier.
see.
But yeah, first time I've tried both of these.
Okay.
All right, cool. Not bad. Again, got this one from Certified Liquor in Duarte or Monrovia. I'm not sure where the border is, but if you're interested in checking it out, I'd recommend it. I would definitely recommend it if you like kind of a fruit bomb whiskey. We'll see how it evolves as we talk, though. So,
If you are justice, please do not lie. What is the price for your blind eye?
The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance.
Whoa! This guy's crazy!
You're part of this too.
How am I part of
You'll see.
let's jump into the Batman, dude. 2022, long anticipated. Let me tell you something. I am very frustrated with the amount of movies just getting remade and retold like so quickly. Because back in the day, it would be a while before they remade a movie.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like let's even take the 1989 Tim Burton Batman. Like the series was from the 60s. So there's at least 20 years that we went without any kind of Batman movie. And in the last dude, I don't know, like since I've been alive, we've had a ton of different versions. The fact that this one was announced not very far after the Dark Knight trilogy kind of blew my mind. And we saw the same thing with Spider-Man and so on. I mean, I guess it was 10 years since Dark Knight Rises, which is kind of crazy. It's like gnarly for me to think about that.
Yeah.
That movie's like in 2012. Like it's so old already.
It doesn't even seem like it's been that long.
It doesn't at all. So I guess it was 10 years, but it still felt pretty quick. And I remember when they announced Robert Pattinson as Batman, I wanted my reaction to be negative, but I didn't do it. You know why? Because I learned my lesson when Heath Ledger got cast as the Joker. Me and everyone else was like, what? That guy, the Joker?
Yeah.
What are we doing? And then obviously we know how that turned out. So ever since then, whenever there's a casting announcement that I don't quite agree with, I keep my mouth shut and I hope for the best.
Well, the ones that are so out there, like with Heath Ledger seemingly at the time, right? And with Robert Pattinson, my reaction was almost like, oh, like, does someone know something I don't? Right?
Yeah.
Like they must see something in this that I don't, or they must have a vision, of this person playing that role that I don't see. Right.
And Robert Pattinson, I knew was a good actor. I wasn't one of the people that was like, oh, the Twilight guy. Because I think of him from that movie, The Rover. Really great movie if you haven't seen it. But so that's like my experience of like, oh, okay, that's this dude acting, So, I figured it'd be good from that regard. And, Matt Reeves directing. And man, when that first trailer dropped, because it took a while and it kept getting pushed back because of COVID. And there was even a period where Robert Pattinson got COVID when they were shooting the movie. So they had to shut down for a while because he got sick. That was the whole thing. So I was like, shit, man, I just cannot wait to see this movie. And it finally dropped and I thoroughly enjoyed it. How'd you feel about it?
I'll say my immediate reaction upon seeing it and leaving the theater was, wow, that's the Batman movie I did not know I needed.
Yeah.
That was like the exact thought I had. Like I went into it not knowing what to expect, and I left like, wow, I didn't even know I wanted that Batman film.
Yeah. It's an interesting take, man. I mean, let me read the synopsis again real quick. But it is an interesting take. It's the first time that we really get to see like the detective,
the early career.
World's greatest detective, Batman. So here we go. Here's a synopsis on IMDb. When a sadistic serial killer begins murdering key political figures in Gotham, the Batman is forced to investigate the city's hidden corruption and question his family's involvement. So I love that. I love the scope.
I was about to say that.
The scope of it, that it's about uncovering all this corruption in Gotham. And so we realize that the city is way worse off than he thinks. And again, the fact that his father might have something to do with it, I thought was a really interesting take. As well as, in this version. So let's see. We get Michael Keaton's Batman. He's already been doing it for a while. He's kind of distracted, as we said in that episode. With Christian Bale or Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, we see the origin of him, not just as a kid losing his parents, but how he trains and becomes Batman. And we get a trilogy of that. And in that one, really playing up the dual personality, right? Like Bruce Wayne is the disguise, the Batman is who he really is. And when we got Ben Affleck's Batman in the Zack Snyder kind of DC universe, interesting, but what I dug about that was because at least with that one, he also did something different, right? It's like, okay, we're going to have a Batman that's 20 years in, and he's just angry.
Yeah,
he's
resentful.
grizzled, like he's resentful, just mad.
Yeah,
you know, like everything sucks. So and that's in a world where they show that Robin has existed and been murdered already. So he's got that on his conscience, you know, among who knows what else. So I thought that was interesting, and that's my thing. Is like if we're gonna redo these like so quickly, then give us something different. And what I like about this version that I know a lot of people didn't like is the fact that he is younger. We see that he's been doing it for 1 year as we get in his narration in the beginning. And we don't get that dual personality. We get like no Bruce Wayne in this movie. There's like
I love that, though.
There's like one scene of him going out as Bruce Wayne, but even then, he's so early on in his Batman journey that that's all he cares about, even more so than Michael Keaton. That's all he cares about. And he's Batman 24/7.
Exactly.
He doesn't give
even
a
when
shit.
he's quote unquote Bruce
even
Wayne.
when he's only there because serial killers like to visit the place of the crime. Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
like,
he's not going to show up as Batman.
Yeah, that's the only reason why. And you know, at the same time, show a little face. But I do like that aspect, and a lot of people didn't like that, but I loved that, and it leaves it open because in the end of this movie, and here's something I like about the arc. I know I'm just kind of going for it. Is he comes out and instead of saying I'm Batman, you know, he says I'm vengeance. And he's over here taking vengeance, vigilante justice, frontier justice on the criminals of Gotham. And we come to find out that the Riddler and all his followers are influenced by Batman. And that's why he's like, I can do this. Like you did it.
Exactly.
I can do it too. I'm going to put on the mask. I'm going to do the thing. We're fighting. We're on the same team. We're fighting criminals. But for Riddler, it's a whole other layer of like deep corruption in the city. Like, again, political figures. And the arc of Batman in this movie is then in the end, you know, realizing like, oh shit, when he's beating that guy and he's like pounding his face into meat and they're like, who are you? And the dude says, I'm vengeance. And he has that realization of like, oh shit. You know, and
Like,
plus
this is the impact I've had.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because even in the beginning of the movie, he's talking about, I'm not sure if I've had any impact yet. It seems like crime has only gotten worse since I've done it, but I have to keep trying, you know, and it's like the Gotham Project, I think it's called in his notebook. He takes note. Like, I like that too, that he like every night, he's like, I got to remember what happened. So he records everything, notes, doesn't know if it's working. But at the end, yeah, like, oh shit, this is the impact I've had. Like, it's actually may have hurt us more. So it's in that ending that he realizes I have to be something more. It's not just vengeance. I have to be hope. You know, I have to be hope for the people. I have to stand for the right things. I've got to, you know, maybe work alongside the police besides Jim Gordon. I got to expose corruption and the deeper problems of the city. And I think that's why that is so important at the end of him. Like, oh, I have to save the people. I got to cut the thing. You know, I'm going to lead them out. And I know some people hated that. I think it's cheesy, but that's it. Like, he has to be almost like a firefighter type, you know, like the people. I heard a couple of things of someone hating that, like some reviewers. I don't remember who or what I watched, but that's who he's got to be. Like, that's what the people need,
like
is
the
what
savior, right?
he needs to be, the savior. Like, yeah, I'm going to lead them into sanctuary or whatever, safety. And there's that great moment too when he goes down at the end in the flood after he cuts the thing and the lights are all out. He saves them from getting electrocuted. He turns on the flare and he's like reaching for the people. And everyone's like scared and freaked out because they're just like, oh, he's a crazy vigilante killer guy. We don't know. And then the kid is the first one. The kid who's almost a mirror of him because his parent got murdered earlier. Now he's orphaned and, you know, Bruce Wayne's looking at him in that crime scene. And that kid is like the first one to reach up to him. And then everyone else comes, including the person running for mayor. He carries him out and he's just like helping people onto the stretcher. And he's like, you know, it's got to be. So I don't remember the line. But we get that he's had this whole realization and, you know, so I'm interested in where that's going to take us going into the second movie. You know, now are we going to get a more balanced Bruce Wayne where he is doing both parts and he's going to use his money and his I guess, celebrity or political influence to help change within the city, and how that's going to play out in part 2. Anyway, sorry, I know
no,
that's
it's
a
fine.
lot.
Yeah, I imagine inevitably that has to be the case, right? Because I think we get it in.
He's got to grow. Like,
yeah, in even Nolan's Batman trilogy, like that character has to ask himself, what am I inspiring, right? I mean, he's aiming to inspire something, but I guess in Matt Reeves' Batman, he's not even thinking about that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But he discovers that what he's inspiring is not what he intended, right? Like the kind of impact he would like to have is not the case. It just reminds me of like the whole copycat thing in the
Dark Knight.
Knight trilogy.
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So he's actually part of the problem in how he's approaching things.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think the thing that you were getting at in the beginning that I really liked and appreciated about this film was that I know that Matt Reeves set out for this to be more of a detective story.
Yeah, very film noir. Even with his narration and everything, it's super like old school noir detective style.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this to you, and I'm going to tie it in here. I've told you this before. I'm not sure where you stand on it now or if you would agree, but it's this Batman that I feel like is the most grounded to me. I believe that he exists in this world, right? Because this world is almost like an alternate reality, I feel like.
Yeah.
And my issue with the Nolan trilogy is that it seemed like it was Batman taking place in the modern world. It didn't seem like it quite fit. I think he did his best, like the best job he could.
Yeah, because he definitely tried to ground it as well.
Yeah, he did.
More so than the original one.
Yeah, but I think the difference is he was trying to ground Batman in the actual real world, whereas I think the reason Matt Reeves' Batman feels more grounded to me overall is because that world I don't even know actually exists, right? It's its own universe, right?
That makes sense. I see what you're saying. Yeah, they like built the world out in
exactly
this one. Yeah,
exactly.
Whereas like in the Dark Knight trilogy, you're like, hey, that's Los Angeles. Where he's
exactly.
He's
it's like it's hard to believe, right? Like, and then you can tell they input like environments like the Narrows and stuff. They just build it out in the real world, but you can kind of tell that's happening. And I think the other thing is too, like, nothing's that over the top. Like the Batcave is like some abandoned subway station, right? It's like Wayne Terminal is probably,
exactly.
And the Batmobile's like just a souped up car, right?
Yeah. It's funny because I didn't think you could get more grounded than the Dark Knight trilogy. Mm-hmm. And this one really did it. And I forgot what video or interview I heard this from, but Matt Reeves explains a lot of that stuff and how in this version, there is no Lucius Fox that's giving Bruce Wayne all this technology. Like a lot of it is DIY, him learning shit on YouTube, like Alfred being like an ex like military person, like being the one who taught him how to fight and how to build car. Like his car. And I do like the Batmobile in this one because it is just a souped up car that he's got money and he built it out himself.
Yeah.
And it's such an interesting choice that when he first brings it out, it like fails for a second. Like he's revving it up and it stalls and then it gets going. Even his suit, the way his suit is built and designed, it looks like homemade, which is very interesting and pretty cool.
Whatever that is he's wearing on his forearm. What is that? I feel like there's like
I'm not even
sure. For sure. And I would just the Batmobile. I think that's probably one of the best Batmobile chase scenes. Like in a Batman, it might be even the best one.
I remember one of my students when I was teaching at the school, we would always talk about movies, and he came in and he said the same thing. He's like, that is the best Batman chase scene, like probably one of the best vehicle chase scenes he's like I've seen.
Yeah, not even just in a Batman movie.
Yeah,
just overall in general. One thing I'll say too about like casting, because we were talking about the choice of Robert Pattinson, but I remember watching an interview where Colin Farrell was kind of talking about how he didn't get it at first, what Matt Reeves' vision was for the Penguin, for Oz. Like he really didn't get it until makeup, right? Like put the prosthetics on and like made him actually so he could see what he was going to look like. And then he had a much better idea of that character and how that character was going to behave, right? But I think it speaks to this idea that, because because I'm a big fan of Matt Reeves. I told you I like the
Like the
Planet of the Apes.
movies,
Yeah, I love those movies. Like I love them so much. So I was really excited about it. And I believe everything I hear about when actors who worked with him talk about him is that he's just so hardworking. They just like, is that man even okay? Somebody needs to check on him. Like he's just so hardworking. And I feel like it speaks to like the level of trust I feel like that I have for him in the vision that he has for a movie like this and the characters that are in it. And to me, in a different way, I think the characters in this film are really dynamic, like how I felt about the 1989 Batman. They don't seem they seem like, their own characters. I love.
They've got depth. They've got agency.
Like Falcone's character, right? John Turturro. I love John Turturro. Yeah, I think it was cast really well. Yeah. Seriously, love the casting and just love how dynamic all the characters are.
Yeah, they weren't messing around with the casting in this one, man. Everyone is, really great. And back on the Penguin thing, it trips me out, man. Like, I don't even understand how in casting, there's probably interviews about it, and I just need to research, but because we know Colin Farrell's a great actor, right? Like, he's up there. He's one of the greats, but what did they see that it's like,
that's what I mean.
That guy.
That's what I mean.
And he needs to be the Penguin. But he's going to do a whole different accent, and we're just going to change him with makeup.
Exactly.
Instead of like hiring someone who is probably like, who's a good actor, but maybe looks a little more like, I don't know, but it's brilliant. And I just don't even understand how they came to that conclusion. Yeah. And when he has the makeup on, he disappears, dude. He completely disappears. Like when I'm watching Penguin, the show, I never think about Colin Farrell. I'm just like, yeah, this is a real guy. This is a real person that exists.
Yeah, I still have to watch the show.
Dude, yeah. That's how it feels. Like, and I mean, it's in this movie too. Yeah, no, you really need to watch that show.
Well, I just heard I was. Is it supposed to take place right after, like about a week after the film ends, right? And it's supposed to be like this, almost like Scarface take, like I don't know, like his story, right?
Yeah, it's like his rise. It's gangster shit. If you like gangster movies, like mob shit. Like that's what it is.
Okay.
It's very, very much that. But yeah, it's good. And again, they still flesh out amazing characters. And it's the character work that really makes it stand out against so many shows and anything comic book related nowadays. Like you could not be into Batman at all or into any of that shit. But if you like a good drama with great characters, like anyone can watch the show.
Okay.
Anybody could watch it. I
need to watch it.
You don't even need to know or give a fuck about Batman for it to work because the character driven shit is so good, and the story arc and everything. Like for not just him, but another character in particular that like kind of like steals the show. Yeah, it's amazing. But
something I wanted to ask you about it because you know a thing or two about cinematography. I think this might be the most beautiful Batman movie, in my opinion. Just like I think, I don't know if it's the way it's lit, the color palette of the whole thing. I just feel like it's such a, like, I enjoy just looking at the film, and I don't know if, you share that opinion, you may not, but
no, I love it too. I mean, I love them all. It's, Greg Fraser shot this one and he did it with a lot of, he shot like Dune and I'm forgetting everything, but he did the Dune movies. He did does other stuff with Denis Villeneuve. It's all slipping my mind, but he's one of the heavy hitters right now, right? And he shot it, and it has such a unique look for a couple of reasons, right? It's like they did some of the work on the volume, the LED wall, which he kind of pioneered. I think it was him who pioneered it on the Mandalorian show, where the set, instead of doing green screen shit, it's literally a big LED wall that has the background on it. So, for example, in this movie, when they're up in that tower where the bat signal is, and it's like sunset, normally, you've got to like find and build this crazy ass set too. It would have taken them days to shoot like 30 minutes of that scene at a time
because of the
to
time.
capture sunset.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's on, they have this like set built that they're standing on, and the rest of it is this LED wall, so they can shoot sunset as long as they want.
Wow.
It's just there. That's what it is. So there's that aspect. And then, in terms of like color palette and everything, it just has a very particular look and color. And also he's shot on like these old Soviet like vintage lenses. So they use the Helios 44-2 Soviet Union era Russian vintage. I have one in the other garage. I should have brought it out, like little lenses that were rebuilt. So that's where you get this really interesting look where only the center is in focus and everything looks swirly and kind of falls off at the edges and gets like soft, which, not a lot of movies. And he did a little bit on Dune as well. Like Dune Part 2 uses it. So yeah, all that to say, I love the cinematography and I love Nolan's cinematography as well. You have Wally Pfister shot that. But it's a very different look because the Dark Knight trilogy is very clean. Yeah. It's very clean. It's reminiscent of like Heat, like Michael Mann movies. And, Wally Pfister's work is great. But even without him, Chris Nolan movies just always have a certain look. I feel like
they all look clean to me.
Yeah, they all do. Even when Hoyt van Hoytema started shooting the movies after Wally Pfister kind of stopped. Like Interstellar, Tenet, the Oppenheimer. And even though it's a whole different cinematographer, they all have a consistent look. Like I would guess it was the same person, which is interesting. I feel like a lot of that's probably just Nolan and what his vision is, and then bringing it to life. And then again, Tim Burton's Batman, like 89 had very much its own look, and I think a lot of that's owed to the production design. Like the era. I think lighting was a little different, technology was a little different, but the production design, like the way Gotham looks and they built it, is quite a bit different, but. Yeah, the cinematography in this one really stands out and is more, I'd say, more artful than the previous movies.
Yeah, and I think the cleanness, let's say, of like Nolan's Batman films is also, and I didn't realize it at the time, what is also a thing that took me out of it, and that its believability about it being a Batman film, because with Reeves, it's like so grimy and you know what I mean? Like it just feels like, okay, this makes a little bit more sense. They
like dirty up the lenses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and because Gotham is it's like a character in and of itself in these films, I think going back to what I was saying, like with Nolan's films, like looking like it's set in such modern times, it just looks so clean, it doesn't even look like Gotham. It doesn't look, like where is Gotham?
It looks like Chicago and downtown LA.
Like, is that Gotham?
New York,
right. Like, there's no like Gotham, right? And in this one, it's interesting because they did a version of Times Square. Yeah, right. But they did make it like it did have its own look to it for sure. But that's it, right? That's Gotham. That's that alternate universe or reality that this story takes place in, which to me makes it feel more grounded. I think it's important that Gotham has, like, you gotta feel like you're in Gotham City, and I just never felt that in Nolan's films.
Yeah, I feel like Batman Begins is the only one that kind of tried that, and it's with the poor area,
the Narrows, right?
The Narrows, yeah. That's the only one that had its own look, and you can tell they built a lot of stuff and CGI'd a lot of stuff, but you never see that area again in the other two movies. I want to go to the opening of this one real quick, man. Okay. I love the whole opening sequence, the movie, that theme building up with his narration is so brilliant. I like that we don't get the origin shit in this. We've seen it 100 times, and that it's him just like talking about, 1 year of sleepless or, all nights has made me nocturnal, and how it's just him like walking through the crowd, but you don't see his face. He's like, I'm out there amongst the criminal element, and how you're seeing all these little crimes and all these things happening in different parts of the city.
The city streets are crowded for the holiday. Even with the rain. Hidden in the chaos is the element, waiting to strike like snakes. But I'm there too, watching. 2 years of nights have turned me into a nocturnal animal. I must choose my targets carefully.
Come on! Give me the money! Let's go! Let's go! All right.
It's a big city. I can't be everywhere. But they don't know where I am. We have a signal now. for when I'm needed. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning. To them. Fear is a tool. They think I'm hiding in the shadows. But I am the shadows.
The signal comes on, and it's like all these segments of criminality like see the signal. And I love that, like the dude who robs the store and he runs out and the signal's on, and the way it's all set up and shot, and he's like looking up and sees the signal.
He almost probably feels like something bad's about to happen.
Yeah, and then he like stops, and even though he has that mask on, you get the sense of like, oh fuck,
yeah,
you know. And he looks into where he was gonna run, like down the dark alley where you can't see anything, and now he doesn't want to go over there. And same thing with the dudes that are spray painting, and they see the helicopter goes by, they don't care, but they see the signal, and he looks again into the darkness, and they're like, oh shit, because he can be anywhere. They have no idea. And how he's just like, I can't be anywhere at once, but fear is the tool, that like people know, and they become afraid, and hopefully that puts makes everyone think twice. And yes, so good.
So the thought I have as you're sharing all of that is, I think it's speaking to why I love this iteration of Batman, in that he just seems like he has a lot more emotional depth to him. And what I mean is that, like, by having that narration, you can tell that this is a Batman that is very introspective. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's almost a little bit neurotic too. Like, and that you could tell he's like in his head, and you kind of believe like the psychological turmoil that he's in.
Yeah.
And, and it could back up like the things that he decides to do and how he behaves. Like, I really hope this isn't coming off like I'm bashing on Nolan's Batman, because it's not that, but it's like, I think that Nolan's Batman, I never feel like there's as much emotional depth in that character. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I saw Batman Begins, where he goes through all that training and stuff and everything, but I just don't get that. I think it might be there, but the thing like the narration helps, to keep that kind of, help you understand that about this character right from the beginning of the movie.
It's funny. I almost wonder, for me, and I know some other people don't think that this one has as much depth, because when I think of the Nolan one, it's like we see him go through this ride of just engaging in the criminal element because he's trying to build an understanding, getting trained by Ra's al Ghul, becoming a ninja, and then deciding even to go against them of like, hey, justice is we shouldn't kill anyone. It's not eye for an eye. They should be tried, this and that. So that disagreement, leads to what it leads to. He comes back. I have to be a symbol. I've got to do this. And then learning, okay, I have to also do Bruce Wayne. Shit. Like, I can't have the girl, I can't have this and have the girl. And I think there is like quite a bit to it that I like. And then in the second one, like trying to get her still, but he can't because he's got to hang up the mask. But Harvey Dent is the real hope. That's what we need. I can't be Batman forever. Like, I feel like we do get a good ride, and there is a lot of emotional depth to him and character driven stuff. But in this one, I think for me, it might feel a little less. I think the narration does help.
It does. But I mean, for me, there's more emotional depth in this one.
It does help. I don't know if there is more for me, at least in the times I've watched it, because he's already kind of like what he is, and he's going for it. I mean, I think it comes out. I'd say it's probably equal, and it's different here. Like, one other thing that's different in this movie that is interesting is his relationship with Alfred, which is pretty important, where he's kind of a dick to Alfred. He's a little bit of an asshole. Like, early on, we see when Alfred's talking to him and, oh, you need to sleep and you need to do this and that. And like, yo, you need to look. Yeah, the meeting's in the morning at the house because we still got shit to do. If we need to make money, if you want to keep doing it, he's like, I don't give a fuck about any of that. And he's like, you're not my father or whatever. Like, we see a very different dynamic. And then we get a good arc, when Alfred almost gets killed and they have to talk about, his father. And he goes through that moment of like, oh, my father was actually a bad man. Like, I'm doing all of this and I mourn them, but my father was like not even a good person. And Alfred has to kind of like remind him and bring him back down to earth. And so that's another thing where I think the arc is really good in this movie too, is I think in the second one, that's another change we're going to see, which I like, that this is almost is an origin, but not in the way of like, oh, he's a kid with his parents and he's learning how to fight, but his emotional origin of like where he is as a person. So yeah, I really hope in the second one we see that difference, not just him being more hopeful, his relationship with Alfred, him being more in tune with, okay, I have to also be Bruce Wayne and make changes on that level because I have influence that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah. And my guess is that was really intentional in the storytelling.
Yeah, for sure.
In this movie, right? Because I think since this is Batman or Bruce Wayne's early career, he is younger. He's likely a lot more immature. And it makes sense to me that his relationship with Alfred would look like that. Like it's almost like resenting a caregiver when you don't fully appreciate him yet, you know? And then when he almost lost him, I think there's a little bit of growing, a little bit of maturing there.
Yes.
You know? And then I think hopefully in that second film, right, that you'll start to see a different relationship between the two of them. I think it's a big part. I think you hit it spot on. I think his like emotional maturity in this movie, right? Like you can just see it's just, you know, he's just really immature.
Yeah. And I like that, and I appreciate it.
I love that.
Yeah,
actually.
for me, I'd say for me, in my perspective, I like the emotional depth and the character work in both versions for sure. I think a lot of people don't give this one enough credit.
Oh, I love it.
Like people I've talked to.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like this one. At least
really,
people I've talked to anyway.
What's the reason they cite of like why they don't like it?
I think a lot of them don't like that it's too grounded and that he's like too dark and this and that. Like that acid, that it was too long and a bunch of it should have been cut out.
I didn't feel like it was. It didn't feel like that.
I didn't either. Like when I rewatched it for this, I rewatched it because I finished Penguin and I was like, I gotta watch Batman again. And then because of that, I was like, oh, let's talk about it too.
Yeah.
But I still, even going back and watching it again, like I don't know what I would cut out of it.
Yeah.
Like if I was gonna cut stuff out of it, it'd be a whole different movie. You know, because there is a lot tackled here and it does go pretty deep, but it's still as daunting as it was. I'm like, all right, I'm about to watch a fucking 3-hour movie. And right now I don't have a lot of time for stuff. So it's like an ordeal in my life, but it still plays really well for me and it flows well. I never get bored. You know, everything keeps moving. I like, you know, the introduction of Catwoman. I like her character and her dynamic with him. And again, Carmine Falcone, you know, Penguin, like, man, I love when he goes to the Iceberg Lounge and first meets him when he's like beating up all those guys and they have their, you know, talk and everything. And of course the chase with him. And
I'll just also mention, I love Jeffrey Wright as Gordon.
Oh, same. Yeah, same. I love their relationship too, that we're seeing him work very closely with him. And
that he fully trusts him, but he doesn't even know who he is. Like, I don't even know who you are. It's like, you know, it's been like, what is it, 2 years or whatever?
Yeah. It's good, man. I love the tone too. You know, one thing that a lot of people talked about when that trailer first dropped is, oh, this is like Seven, like some David Fincher shit. And it very much is. It is kind of reminiscent of that, you know, which is cool. Like the movie as a whole, it makes it just way more mature.
Yep.
So I really like that aspect of it as well.
Yeah.
Dude, Paul Dano as the Riddler, like that first scene. I like how the opening shot of him looking through the binoculars or whatever and scoping out the house. What I really like about that is at first, like you almost think it's Batman. Like it could be. We don't know. It's like, oh, is this Batman? But then what
maybe the breathing gives it away.
That's what makes it creepy is like that breathing
right.
is what turns you on as, oh, this is a little bit weird. Dude, in that great shot when the dude's watching TV
exactly.
and he steps away and he's just like behind him.
Oh man, that was so good. I remember when the movie first came out, like I heard and read that a lot of people, like the scene that stayed with them the most is that opening.
Yeah.
And because I knew it was coming, I was like watching for it more closely. Like, can I see him in the background? Like the timing of it is perfect.
Yeah. And it's scary. It's like
because he steps away and like you don't think anybody's there. And then the lightning flashes and you catch a glimpse of him. Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure you're aware, but Joker was supposed to be in this movie, right? And he's supposed to be kind of an established criminal that, you know, and then, you know, Batman's supposed to go what?
Yeah. Well, we do get him at the end.
Yeah.
And I do like that scene, the Joker scene, because it's on YouTube.
The scene they cut out? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do see, because that is one where like the movie is pretty long already.
That would be the thing.
Yeah, that would be the thing to lose. But I did like it. And I like this interpretation of it, again, being more grounded. That Joker. And I like that we don't know. Like, we just know that they already have a relationship. He's caught him. He locked him up already. And he's all scarred and messed up. And again, he's obscured and out of focus the whole time. But I like that they did the Hannibal Lecter approach. You know, it's very much like Will Graham and Hannibal Lecter, where in like Manhunter, you know, Will Graham is going to talk. Well, same thing in Silence of the Lambs, where they go to talk to him, the FBI profilers, because they're like, yo, we need your help, like catching this person. So here's the files. Like, what can you tell me about him? And that he just nails it all. You know, he's like, you guys are more similar than you think. And
I don't know if he's gonna be like the main villain in the second one. Like, we don't know that, right? I don't think we do. But if he ends up being a villain, I see that like potentially being like the scariest, most unpredictable and dangerous version of the Joker I think we would get. Because
really, more so than Ledger.
Yeah. Well, because I think to me Ledger seemed older. Like, just seems older, like in presence. This Joker seems like a child to me. Right. And that's always, I think, scarier. Yeah. Like, he just seems like he'd be way more unpredictable.
I would almost be fine. Like, yeah, I wonder where it's going to go. I would almost be fine if they have him more in the other movie, but it's in a similar kind of position.
I see.
You know, again, like the Hannibal Lecter type. He's still locked up, but Batman's got to go talk to him and deal with him. Deal with his little mind games and shit.
Well, what villain? I mean, this is kind of a little bit. I mean, what villain would we like to see? I mean, which one hasn't been done or overdone? That, you know.
Yeah, well, I think that can work in this world too.
I mean, like, I think maybe a lot can work in this world.
Yeah. Though. I mean, I guess there's like Black Mask or whatever. I've heard people talk about that. They talk about Scarecrow maybe could work. You know,
I always remember
really give him his due.
I guess the one that could never really work, or I can't see how they would pull it off, but I always remember from the animated series is Clayface.
Clayface. There was a bunch of talk that Clayface was going to be in the second movie, but it's obviously not going to be that version of it. Because I think there was, even in the comics, there was like 2 versions of Clayface, and it's like the second version is like the shape-shifting clay. Okay. But someone, I don't remember where I heard this, but someone had a good idea about doing a Mr. Freeze, but it's not like he has an ice gun, but it's like his take on it was like they could do a version of Mr. Freeze where, you know, he is a doctor and he's trying to save his wife, but he's like harvesting organs. So he's like a serial killer, but he's like taking people's organs and he's freezing them.
That's pretty dark.
To preserve them. Yeah, shit like that, like just hardcore serial killer shit.
Okay.
And he is literally Mr. Freeze. And so I was like, that could be interesting in this world. Oh man, I'm forgetting like a bunch of people, but I mean, Penguin is going to be crazy. Like, and I don't even know if he's going to be the main antagonist of the second movie. I'd imagine probably. Yeah. But yeah,
I think he will actually.
I can't wait to see where that's going to go and how that's going to play out.
Yeah. 2026. I think
it's too long. It's too fucking long. It makes me mad. Like, we just ended the show and it's like, dude, there's still that much time. Like, because it's already been how many years since the fucking movie? Yeah. And then we got the series that I didn't even want in the first place, but it just happened to be amazing. And then now we got to wait so long for the movie. Like, let's just stop doing this shit if we're going to take so long. Honestly, like, just don't do that. Yeah. Yeah, man. I don't know. I think there's so much to talk about, but like, I think the Riddler is great. I love Paul Dano's performance. I like the vibe. I like the riddle, like all the traps. It was really cool. I wasn't expecting it to go that route at the end. Like, when it seems like it's ending and he's caught, I thought it was pretty amazing that they did pull together. Like, oh, there is going to be a big, you know, mad villain moment. He's going to destroy the city, and now Batman has to save the city. Like, I didn't see that coming. And because in this version, I'm like, oh, how is this going to work? Like, how is he going to do that? You know, but to me, it makes sense and it works out well and he gets it done. And, you know, we don't see him go hand in hand with the actual Riddler, which is a little like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. But then we have the other versions. Right. So you kind of get it anyway. You get his fight and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the use of Ave Maria.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so awesome how he sings it too. I mean, it's really creepy.
Yeah.
But I think we could also mention, like, because I love Michael Giacchino.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and I think he did a great job on this score too.
Oh yeah.
For sure. I'm just wondering. I mean, I think they're all pretty memorable,
Oh yeah.
with the exception of maybe the Man of Steel ones or the Batman v Superman. I don't even know who scored that one.
I think Batman v Superman was Danny Elfman.
Was it? Oh.
And if not, they at least added a little bit of the 89 theme in there because I remember
Okay.
that happening for a moment. But actually, no, I think it was Hans Zimmer and Chunky XL.
Okay.
Pretty
Okay,
sure
so
it
it's
was.
probably pretty good. I guess they're all good. I mean, they all have their own kind of flavor to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's great. I love him.
Yeah, no, the soundtrack is really good. And that's at this point, another character too, right? Like if you're
Exactly.
going to do a Batman movie, it's like, what's that theme going to be though? Like that's important. And I remember when they first released the footage of like the costume shot test
That was
with that music.
because he got it the night before.
Yeah.
He got it, yeah. Matt Reeves got it the night before. He listened to it. He got super emotional and decided to shoot the test. And
He's
and
like,
play-
we're gonna put this out.
exactly with the music. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, so good, the soundtrack, and I think it's a little bit slower paced too, right?
Yeah.
I remember when they introduced Batman for the first time, he's just walking through that hallway. You just hear his boots.
It almost sounds like Spurs, dude, like a Western
Yeah,
when he's walking,
right,
just
right.
that jingling and jingling and through the wet pavement.
And it's the anticipation. I mean, and eventually you see him,
yeah.
right?
And because he's like stepping out of the darkness
Right.
too, and all that.
yeah. That's cool. Love it.
Yeah, I think it's a great movie. I think it holds up well. Obviously, I love it. Again, we didn't talk about like Catwoman or Falcone that much, but I think they're also great. You know, I love the dynamics with them and the other characters. I love that there's almost that. It's kind of like the dual story of like, you know, the Riddler terrorizing the city, but also the other plot along with it is the, you know, Thomas Wayne and all that and how that connects to Falcone and Catwoman and all that stuff. It's cool.
Yeah, I think the last thing I'll say about that is that going back to the story with his parents, although the story he was coming up with about his dad being more corrupt than he was isn't true. I mean, his dad still got his hands dirty though. Mm-hmm. And I think that is also another element of this story not being so clean. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
like Thomas Wayne is just like this Boy Scout, right? That has never done anything wrong, but that people
made a
make
mistake.
Yeah, that people make mistakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of it. And I love that it's more complex that way, like
Yeah,
in the characters
right.
in the story, you know? And I love that he doesn't really know like what happened to his parents in this one yet. I mean, he knows that they were killed, but it's not, he doesn't know. I mean, he suspects it was Falcone, but he doesn't know for sure,
Yeah.
right? And we don't know if the truth will ever come to light, but the fact that he has that to deal with on his own that he may never know, right, is also something that adds to his character, I think.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
You know, like even when he's talking to Alfred and he's like, it was probably him, but we
but
don't know.
We don't know.
Like, we'll never.
And
like,
what that does to somebody,
Yeah,
right?
and he even says he's like, it could just be someone on the street that just you know pulled the trigger or whatever. He's like, or it was him. Like we just don't.
Yeah, dealing with that uncertainty can really be like does a number on you psychologically. So I think that really adds to the motivation of his character.
Yeah.
Like a chip on his shoulder, like he'll never know that, you know. But yeah, and then I think Zoe Kravitz was like perfectly casted. It was weird. One of my friends told me after this one came out, and with Zoe Kravitz being Catwoman, that she then kind of realized, oh, maybe Anne Hathaway wasn't that great of a Catwoman, you know. I didn't think that at the time, but you know, now looking back, you know, I don't know.
I liked her.
Yeah. I mean, maybe she was fine. But yeah, I like Zoe Kravitz's character. Yeah,
Yeah, man.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's a banger. Man, I'll never remember that other part I was going to say, but maybe it'll come up years from now when we talk about the Batman part 2.
That's fine.
Yeah, everybody, that's it. That's the Batman Heaven's Door single barrel cast strength. If you have not watched The Penguin, then you need to go do yourself a favor and watch it. It's the best show of 2024, probably.
Oh wow, that's high praise.
No, yeah, dude, it's really good. I was late to the game too because I just don't really like. I'll see it, but I don't really give a shit. And I kept hearing how good it was, and because I just didn't have time in my shows like that. I watch with my older brother and my folks, so it almost becomes like a family thing, which is kind of nice. But, you know, they just fucking started it without me because I've been super busy all season, as you know.
Yeah.
And then I didn't catch up till they were already on episode 4. And I'm like, all right, here we go. I'm going to watch it just on my own. And I was like, yo, this shit's good. Dang. And yeah, you got to see. It was good to the point where I almost wanted to do a podcast about it.
Oh, wow.
And I don't do any TV shows, but I was like, this one needs to be talked about.
Well, I'll watch it and then we'll see. Maybe we'll see.
I'll need to see it again. But all right, that's a wrap, everybody. Thanks for listening. Tune in next time. Cheers. Thank you for listening to the Drinks and a Movie podcast. You can now find us on Instagram at Drinks and a Movie Pod, where we'll be posting photos from all the various films that we discuss. You can also email us at drinksandamoviepod@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe, and thank you for listening.